All right, welcome back to Call of Cthulhu Season 3. Hey, Amber, does your character have a name yet?
Robbie.
Robbie.
First name.
That is perfect.
Is that Robbie, R-O-B-I, R-O-B-B-I-E, R-O-B-B-Y-G-E-R?
R-O-B-B-I-E.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. We'll get other details later, but I need it for my narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need stats until the second session, right?
Yeah.
So, that may actually be true, especially if you're Robbie.
Oh, boy.
We're not going to roll anything this session, right?
Well, you may, but hopefully you at least have an idea. Like, if you just end up in the situation where you go, I really need 99 marksmanship right now, then it's locked in and you have to make that so.
Fair, fair. I might.
So this is Season 3. Those of you who have been following our Call of Cthulhu games knows that I have moved them all over the world in all sorts of contexts. And this year, because I've been super busy and very lazy, I decided to set the episode in Chicago today. Because I'm from there, my parents still live there, and designing a world that's modern-day Chicago is super easy because I didn't have to do any work. Plus, if you wanted a world of crime, danger, and murdering, that would be perfect for Call of Cthulhu. Thanks to Mayor Rahm Emanuel, the city's already been prepared.
Ooh, getting political over
Oh,
here.
baby.
Hey, we like our, unindicted co-conspirator mayors that are super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you voted for him.
Yes, we voted for these people. They're fantastic. Also, Illinois, more governors who have been indicted than governors who have not.
Whoa.
Yes. It's the record. No other state.
Are we
can
going to
make
get to
that
the
claim.
bottom of that? That's what we're investigating.
Hey.
That's what we're
We're
investigating.
gonna indict Cthulhu. So we're gonna,
That tells you a lot about my background and why I'm the way I am. I'm from that place.
I mean,
God.
I'm waiting for like the big corporate big fat cat that's at the head of all the bad guys.
Oh, yes. Well, you may actually find some of that out before the thing
Yeah,
is up.
that's just Cthulhu in a suit.
Yeah, yeah.
So, a couple of
back down to like 2,500 subscribers after this.
homework things. First of all, compared to any game I've run in the last 10 years, I've decided to pull a Sterling on this one and write a long exposition. I am not good at this sort of thing because unlike Sterling, I am not a writer, and this is just like stream of consciousness. So when I read it, it's going to be super embarrassing because I haven't even edited. Like, I finished writing it, and I never looked at it again. So in my mind, it's probably great, but it could be gobbledygook.
That reminds me of college.
Yes. That's how I roll all my papers, too. But I don't know if I still have those powers. So, we're going to start by introducing the characters. And why don't we start with Will to my right, because Will has been working on this character longer than anyone at the table combined.
Yes.
Oh,
So
well, yeah.
he probably knows
Yes.
the most.
Alright, so my character's name is Gene August. He's 55 years old. He is from Brooklyn, New York originally, but for the last 10 years he's been living in Sleepy Hollow, and he just recently moved to Chicago to accept a very generous position at the Joseph Ferguson Library at the University of Chicago. So he's a librarian, and he's very pleasant, and he's a walking, talking Italian-American stereotype.
Oh, alrighty then.
All right.
A lot of work put into that now.
My character's name is Andrew Hale. He's 36 years old. He was in the military for the first 8 years of the occupation of Afghanistan, or invasion of Afghanistan. After which he transitioned to a life as a police officer in Chicago, his hometown. But frustrated with the flaws in the justice system, he took to righting wrongs himself on the streets at night using untraceable weaponry through his contacts in the military. And he has been more and more going out and obsessing over this. And he tells himself he does it just to help people, but it's become less and less of that, and he's enjoying it more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Oh my God.
You're crazy.
I'm like Punisher earlier.
Yeah. Punisher beginnings.
You spent a lot of time in
before
shadows.
he does nothing else.
He's just
I still have a
scenes
day
of
job
Afghanistan.
during which I collect information as a police officer.
Are you a beat cop or are you like a desk jockey?
I'm
type cop?
like a beat cop. Because, you see it go down on the streets, and that would also be why I need Amber's help getting information on who is escaping the justice system. And I might need to track down.
Yes.
Everybody.
Cool. Okay.
Mayors, potentially.
So I figured out a last name. Robbie Larson is
Ooh,
my
as
name.
in larceny?
Yes. I don't know. And I'm a penitentiary officer in Chicago, but I'm originally from Iowa City, Iowa. I first started out really wanting to be a police officer, and then became a police officer in Iowa, and was transferred to Chicago because they needed people, but was quickly kicked out of that into penitentiary officer for being too much of a goody two-shoes. Basically, I told on someone and they didn't like it. So now what I do is I basically stalk people and figure out their personal information and then hand it off to whatever lovelies are out there that want to take better action. Yes.
I wonder who those people could be.
I know, right?
I wonder. I will be playing as Kyle Cordivall. Kyle worked his whole life to get a PhD in biochemistry and develop drugs to help save the world. He was working on one particular drug called Protocool that could possibly save Alzheimer's. It worked really great in the trials with mice, but as soon as it shifted to human trials, there were reports of seizures, blood coming from the ears and nose.
Holy shit, dude.
It went really bad. Caused more harm
Your
than good.
medication was, what, Ebola?
It's like that
Yeah.
long list of things people yell out at the end of
Yeah.
all drug commercials. Anal leakage,
Yeah, it was just all true.
eyeball bleeding.
Minor
And
bleeding
he's
from
dead.
orifices.
But all of them simultaneously.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
he became depressed that his life's work resulted in failure. But he was awoken from this depression from a call from the Northwestern Hospital?
It's from the
Yes.
Cthulhu.
The Northwestern Hospital, that his son was in a coma. When he arrived there, he learned that his son was taking a new street drug called color spray, or spray if you're on the upper tier of cool.
Your streets ahead.
Just
Yeah.
everyone is, Peter.
Yeah.
No one would choose to be in the lower tier.
Driven by curiosity, Kyle investigated or took some of the samples that were locked away at the hospital of spray, found out that it was based on his own drug's design. Furious by his own work being misused, he tried to go to his company to see what happened. He saw that the locker it was stored in was broken into. The police were unable to help, so he took to the streets, bringing out his old blade from the Historical Fencing Society.
Go on.
It's a real thing.
No, I know.
It's a society.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just like
He did it in college. He won some championships. He was
Battle
very good
Doctor
at it.
takes to the street.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
important
Battle
because modern
science.
day fencing has nothing to do with anything other than touching and scoring points.
However-
so the Historical Fencing Society is very important because they actually taught weaponized fencing, which is no
You're just
longer
gonna break it off in
Ah,
crates.
yeah.
Kyle,
that's the big
riposte
difference.
in.
Yeah, you could break us out of all sorts of crates.
Yeah.
And so,
There will be no crates in this.
And
That's
so,
what you think.
so Kyle's taken to the streets, taking on the name of Catalyst to be the change in this city.
I like it.
Well, I'm playing Joseph Novak. Joseph Novak was an ex-combat medic. He got sent over to Iraq. Had a harrowing supernatural experience in Iraq, which hopefully we'll go into detail on later. And wound up coming back to the States after a general discharge to... I hope I got that discharge right. I did research, but apparently that's correct. Anyway, after a general discharge to become a actual legitimate medical doctor. So he studied now to get his MD, and he's working on his PhD currently, but he's not quite there yet. He's a doctor of clinical surgery. And has the sequence with Peter and my character happened yet, or are we doing that now?
No
Which sequence are you talking about? The one where you've met him because of his... It will come up in the exposition.
Okay. So we'll get to that. But basically, I'm playing a doctor, Dr. Joseph Novak. Jono.
It turns out general discharge is correct. Some years ago, the Army actually updated their stuff because too many PTSD people were not getting benefits.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So you're like PTSD discharge.
Well,
right?
it's yeah. I couldn't perform my duties accurately enough. I wouldn't say I was ever diagnosed with PTSD, but I couldn't perform my medical duties accurately enough, so they discharged me.
But then you got your like medical doctorate.
I came back and worked because it wasn't a combat situation anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you're able to cope.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
Oh,
Yeah.
we shall see.
I mean,
I'm
if
almost
something
a Chicago.
explodes near you.
Yeah, I'm also a Chicago native. No, like there's definitely going to be situations.
A brain.
where- particularly if anything happens where I lose sight of my teammates, it's going to be bad.
So I'm playing Miles Grepsed. Miles is a fellow from Kokomo, Indiana, about an hour and a half north of Indianapolis, depending on how the traffic
These
is.
small town farm
Wait,
places.
go
That
down
you
in
are from.
Kokomo?
Yeah, well,
Take it faster, just take it slow.
turns out there is no Kokomo as in the Beach Boys song. There's just Kokomo, Indiana,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
which is like a terrible, like, they've got like a Delphi plant and a steel mill or something shitty like that. It's,
All right.
Yeah, it's
They'll take it slow there.
half an hour from where I went to school. Anyway, so Miles is a computer specialist. He is 21. He's currently a student at the University of Chicago. The two of us, I don't know if we've actually met yet, but
You have in the exposition. You've met, but you don't know each other well yet.
I'm sure you recognize my face.
But yeah, I've seen you around.
But I've seen so many students that, like,
Yeah.
who knows?
But anyway, Miles is like sort of short and like terribly ugly and has like awful acne, and like greasy hair and like hasn't quite realized he has to shower on the regular yet.
Oh, you're much grosser than I envisioned.
He's got an app of 4.
What?
He's got a what?
Yeah.
He's got an
Oh
app
my
of
God.
4. I rolled a 4.
Appearance.
Yeah, appearance.
Throw it right into the dumpster.
I thought
Yeah.
you would just be like awkward, but
No.
adorable, but not
No.
like Dick Deadeye gross.
He's like sort of hideous.
What? Got like what,
damn
Gross?
it.
Oh, sorry. For those of you who are completely unfamiliar with Gilbert and Sullivan, Dick Deadeye is an awesome character from HMS Pinafore.
I don't remember him. Okay.
He's like one of the most important characters. He's the guy with the eye patch who like naysays everything.
It's been a while. All right.
He's hilarious.
Anyway, so relentlessly bullied in high school, Miles took to the internet and to sort of cyberbullying to turn things around on his tormentors, and got really good at it. He's sort of a whiz with computers, to the point that his senior year of high school, one of like student who used to be his like principal tormentor, actually committed suicide, at least in part because of Miles' relentless online aggression. You know, not just like downvoting stuff on social media, but like trolling and hacking into stuff and releasing photos of whatever. You know, just
So you,
like
you straight up cyberbullied somebody.
oh yeah,
Okay.
So you're the digital and physical representation of a troll.
yeah,
Nice.
pretty much.
Nice.
Apparently, he also doxes
Wow.
people.
Oh,
Yeah.
We have to do something where we make a YouTube account and have you comment on every single one of these videos.
No,
that
no,
sounds like
As
work.
your characters.
Yeah.
we don't.
Hey, it's the new kind of meta advertising that all media uses
Oh
now.
God.
Listen, if you want to
Or
create
YouTube-
a Miles Grepsed,
Call of Cthulhu, more like Call of Kill Yourself. All right.
Our YouTube channel has built its own antagonist.
Yeah, exactly.
I spent days trying to figure out if Grepsed was a real name or if it's like an anagram for something.
it's so grep and sed are two extremely common
yeah.
Unix command line programs.
Oh, okay.
No.
So it's not really an anagram; it's just a portmanteau. Yeah.
I'm a social psychologist. I don't know anything about programming.
Okay. Where am I going now? Oh, so now he's currently at U Chicago. He's a junior. He's 21 years old. That's about it.
All right.
Dan, what was your Nick? What was your character's name again?
Andrew Hale.
Andrew. Okay, thanks.
Mostly goes by Hale.
Sorry.
So, a couple of quick things is that, once again, I am presuming that, unlike the last two games, you guys are in the thick of your roles and have some background, which means if you have a reasonably appropriate asset or component of your life that makes sense, I'm going to allow it. So you can't say, oh, I actually stole a Harrier the other day and I'm going to fly this off of the top of like the Willis building. That won't happen. But if Nick says, oh, I have like stealth equipment or I have a long range sniper rifle, that makes perfect sense. I presume that Gene is wealthy and lives on the Gold Coast. So if you need that, like create those trappings, that's perfectly fine. So whether it's like wealth matters, or you go, oh, I'm already very connected with the pharmaceutical industry, or I own like 150,000 shares.
I wouldn't say that I own a lab, but I still work at the company.
Okay.
So I have access to a lab.
My husband's an accountant. He's
Yeah.
he's pretty good with money. He's always been pretty good with money.
Yeah, so maybe he even has been pretty good with some of their money that unbeknownst to you, or possibly Mayor Emanuel's
I don't
money.
even know how he didn't go to school for that. But
Sometimes some people just pick things up on their own, you know.
On the job training.
yeah.
I have to say, Peter, I had to fight so hard to not put Planet of the Apes monkeys into this game somehow. You create an Alzheimer's drug that kills humans? Maybe it's good for
I didn't even know that.
That's like literally the Planet of
That
the
is
Apes.
the like Planet of the Apes.
right?
I honestly, it was just like, what's a drug that like, or like,
That
what's
makes
a
you
brain
like
disease?
James Franco,
Oh,
right?
Alzheimer's. That's easy.
Are you played by James Franco? That would be even more
Sure,
amazing.
why not?
It's like,
I described him as like
Oh boy.
brown hair.
hey, James Franco, if
yes.
you subscribe and retweet,
Come on our
I will
show.
not eat my t-shirt.
I'll give up my seat
That's
for
not
you.
a. That's not a.
and
I'm gonna eat a picture of
play
James
instead.
Franco.
No,
every
that's
day.
right. Yes,
There you
I'll
go.
eat a
He
picture of
gets
James
me.
Franco. That'd be amazing.
Good luck on the disaster artist. It's going to be a great movie.
So, I am now going to
Great movie
read
about a bad movie.
the narrative that brings us all into the story.
So dated.
Because this is a new methodology that I typically have not liked in the past, because I am always championing the idea of player agency. It is possible that as I give the narrative that you might go, oh my god, I did not want to be a misogynist or a rapist or a person who defrauded his clients. And so if you feel that any part of the narrative does not represent your character, feel free to intercede and say, look, that's not how, or interrupt and say, that's not how it's going to go, and we can change that. This is just a starting off point to get everyone at the table, mostly because the conceit of this game is that in Chicago, because the crime has gotten so bad, that vigilantes have basically appeared of their own volition. Cops that have decided the system isn't working anymore, citizens who have gone out and decided to take the law into their own hands, and all of our players are involved in that world in some way.
Now, this was the question I was going to ask. How many of these vigilantes have died already? Because I work in the hospital.
Ooh.
Like,
It is hard to say. Like,
Okay.
Clearly some of them have.
Okay.
But it turns out that you don't get a lot of people in costumes who actually show up at the hospital. And when they do, it's usually like, oh, he got like a black eye, or someone hit him with a crowbar or something like that.
Okay.
So,
the costume's half gone
yeah, so...
by the time they get to the ER.
oh no, it got torn!
Yeah. So you're not sure whether or not it's because you're at Northwestern Hospital, which is one of the elite hospitals in Chicago. So it's possible that they're all taken to Cook County, which is where the crappy like people die in the streets type of hospital.
Where is Northwestern located, by the way?
Northwestern is on the Gold Coast, up the street from where my parents live. It's
Okay.
on Michigan Avenue, just to the right after you get past the water tower, and it's a gigantic medical faculty complex.
Okay.
I basically hang out there at the Starbucks whenever I go visit my family.
Is it real close
North
to...
of downtown, right?
Okay, and it's real close to the water?
Yes. it
Okay,
is.
alright.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you work at a hospital with an ocean view or a water
When
view?
Cthulhu rises out of...
Oh yeah, you want to
Out of
Yeah.
Lake Michigan.
I just want to be able to have a
I
good
will
seat.
also point out
Yeah.
that when I took my boyfriend who grew up in Seattle to visit my family for the first time, he was dumbfounded that Lake Michigan was such that you couldn't see the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's a great lake. It's effectively a sea. Like, in fact, it's bigger than a lot of
freshwater
seas that
sea.
actually exist. So, so yes, you effectively have ocean wheels. In fact, the
Sweet.
Gold Coast, the property there is so expensive because it is effectively seaside property.
They don't call it the Gold Coast for nothing.
All right, so here we go. Andrew Hale. That last name you got from Robbie Larson was a disaster. On the surface, he seemed like the perfect target. A mid-level dealer released on a technicality. Too bad that technicality was you. Harry Griffin was not on anyone's radar. He was just a career beat cop with neither commendations nor demerits. Over 10 years and just on cruise control. Then you got wind that he was feeding information to the dealers to help them cover up their stakes and which other cops might be soft. When you found out that he helped some lowlife deal to a couple of kids and one of them ended up in a coma at Northwestern, that was the last straw. He had to go. Too late, you found out that he was the cop that brought in Eddie Bennett, the name you got from her. Somehow that same day that you did Harry, The evidence on Eddie also went missing. Taking down Eddie was supposed to be textbook. He wasn't in long enough to make new enemies or new contacts, so he quickly fell back into his old routines and took a few days just to figure out and it only took you a few days to figure out what those were. Friday nights were a feeding frenzy on the streets for the dealers, and Eddie was right back on his rugs as if nothing had happened. It was easy to figure out when and where he'd be alone, away from well-lit streets and surveillance cameras.
Mm-hmm.
One to the head, double tap, easy. Then there was the scream, the shadow. Or maybe you just weren't getting enough sleep. That shadow, it didn't look right. But there was no time to be sure. You had to get out of there. Kyle's routine was getting too routine. Every night since he picked up the blade again, it was either the streets or the hospital. His work was suffering, and he was pretty sure he'd be fired any day now. Some nights he wasn't sure he could remember who he was, or how he became whatever it was he was now. No one understood what this new guy in the streets was really after. He was erratic. Folks were pretty sure he had no understanding of life on the streets. Some thought he was crazy. Everyone agreed he was dangerous. Who carries a sword? He couldn't seem to tell a petty user from a boss. All he seemed to do was ask where the spray was coming from, and never seemed to be satisfied with the answer.
Make some of his own.
This evening, however, Kyle was at the hospital. The machines, tubes and needles, the charts and monitors, they all fell away as background noise behind the boy on the bed. It wasn't really his fault, was it? Did John know how much his dad loved him? Would he ever get the chance to tell him that he did? To make up for all that lost time? Would he even recognize this man sitting by his bed? At least he had not yet killed anyone. Well, he had it, right? Suddenly, the surgeon was there. He was running past her room. Wait a minute, I recognize him. This is that guy who was working on my son the day he was brought in. It was just another typical Friday night. It was a party night and the bangers would be out, and that meant non-stop action in the emergency room. Normally, Joseph would not have to be here, but he'd not gotten enough rank yet to not have to take on-call shifts, and this Friday happened to be extra busy. He hated these kinds of cases. He'd seen enough on the field to know that this kid was not going to make it. GSW, head and chest. It looked like a hit. These were almost always DOA, but this one somehow managed to hang on just long enough to waste more of their resources.
Yeah.
Oh god.
He had only a moment to rue the situation, and it was time for work. It always felt like he was someone else watching himself work. The noises, the likes, the panic cries. These were all muffled echoes in the background as only the patient seemed real. Almost too real. No one in the ER could tell what happened. It looked like Dr. Novak had seen a ghost. His eyes grew wide, his face pale. A shudder and then a spasm ran through him as he jerked away from the patient. That was all it took. If there was any chance of saving the man, it was gone now. Did he even know that he was still holding a heart in his hand?
Whoa. Can I make a medicine roll to see if I actually didn't screw that up?
This is a sanity situation, not a medicine situation.
Can I have a sanity roll?
Sure.
Okay.
What's going on?
do
You
you-
have a heart in your hand?
Do you not want to be holding
Did you
this
just
heart?
did you just rip out the man's heart?
I'm trying to
Because
stop
of what he
you.
saw in the
with
room.
you?
Yeah.
Ooh, roll to feast on his heart.
Let me see.
Oh, eat the heart. Eat the heart.
You
Critical
roll. You roll.
success.
22. Pass.
All right.
You roll a 100 immediately.
You can avoid having the heart in your hand, but the patient will still die. And you
Okay.
still saw what you saw.
Fair enough.
or
So you saw
thought-
yourself holding the heart?
Or you,
but then
you thought you saw. Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's even worse.
Yeah, it's where you have that like flash, like what if I jumped off that building? Like
What if I just
The
swerved into
vertigo.
oncoming traffic?
Yeah.
What if I just walked around and ripped out people's
Well, as a surgeon, it's not that hard. It's right there.
Yeah.
Oh boy. It's right there. It's beating.
Just like
it's
I could
asking
just
for
I
it.
could just do that right now. If I was
Yeah.
there, I would
You think about it.
you think about it. You'd be
my
like, I could just fucking rip out that heart right now.
You know,
You guys should never be done.
How much? I'll give you $1.
Hey, dude, my appearance is 5.
Oh, are you serious?
Everybody this campaign.
Hey, I'm 12. I'm a little above average.
Alright.
You know,
Oh, there you
enough.
go.
Yeah, you can make up for it. Your face.
Yeah.
So you won't be shot on
I'm 10.
sight.
I'm still pretty bad. No, great.
10's
It's about average.
This is average. Yeah.
It's
Alright.
average.
I never sleep.
So-
Slash fugly people.
That Miles kid was really starting to become a fixture there in Regenstein. More and more often, Gene would notice this young man still there at the dedicated terminals when he was leaving. Some days, it seemed like he was there throughout the school day and likely well into the night. There were even days that it seemed like he was there when he left and still there when he got back in the morning. It was so unusual to see such a young man with the authorization to use the dedicated terminals. His student records said he was only a junior. Even though Gene had not worked there all that long, it was enough to know that the only people who ever used these terminals were either postdoc students or folks with military credentials. Even he was not authorized on them. This kid was definitely an odd one, but his paperwork and ID checked out. If this kept up, he might have to ask the fellow what he was up to. It really just started out as boring chatter. There was always talk of some new action in the city. Sometimes it was a new shipment of guns. Sometimes it was a new player making a splash. Sometimes it was a brand new or a new version of a drug that would do more or make more or just be different enough to hit harder on an oversaturated market. So color spray was just another novelty of the hour. At least that's how it started. But then in the short time it's been out, the chatter started getting interesting. Sure, there were the usual overdose deaths and hallucinations, but all the noise and the drugs seemed to be off somehow. The way people wrote about it in the dark web seemed not to feel right. There was a sense of a cover-up, nervousness, even fear. Normally, stuff like this quickly turned into games of blame and finger-pointing. There would be accusations of some kingpin or some country turning out a lethal product. But not this time. This time, everyone seemed worried, but no one seemed to have anyone to blame. But that was not the only thing. Even on the dark web, there are dark places. If you knew what you were doing, you could tell that something was going on behind the curtain that was behind the curtain. You might not be able to see back there, but you could tell something was happening. These were always big international shadow stakes or governments working on ghost projects. You didn't mess around there. It's what gets people killed or disappeared. But this time, things felt different. Even from this side of the curtain, there was a sense that they were there, or that they were as dark as anyone else. It took some digging, but he eventually learned that ever since the Manhattan Project days, the University of Chicago had special access to a series of dedicated terminals able to access government systems generally shielded from the rest of the internet. Really, it made perfect sense. Miles had long known that the government had and many of the major universities were in cahoots on numerous high-security, top-secret projects. It would make sense there would be a secure means by which data and communications could be shared. What was not always clear was how this was all set up. Dedicated terminals was obvious, but where were they, and how did one get access? That did not take too much to figure out either. Nearly all of them were in high-security labs, but there were still the ones in Regenstein stacks. Those would be softer targets. It took a few weeks, but you were finally able to conjure up the necessary credentials to get access. But now the real work was in front of him. Just getting to a terminal was one thing, but having access to what was on the other side, that was a whole other world. This was delicate work. Any inkling on the other side that a terminal on this side was being used without full access authorization, and there was no telling what the backlash would look like. It had been over a month and still nothing. This was going to become a full-time project. Looks like some more grades are going to have to be faked again. That's it.
Cool.
I hope everyone is okay with my having imposed upon you.
My character's a lot darker than I originally thought.
There wasn't
but I
one
like
for Robbie.
Robbie was the
She
beginning
gave-
of it
Oh,
all.
she fed. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have a sword.
Yeah.
You should look up the stats
Sword
for the
of Justice.
sword.
Yeah, it's 1d6 plus 1 plus damage die, which is 1d6 plus 1.
Well, 1d6 plus 2, right?
Just 1d6 plus 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't have any damage die. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, the way the scene has gone is that
All my stats.
Robbie dug up the name of a mid-level drug dealer that somehow got off on a technicality, gave the name to,
Andrew?
I wanted to call him author because it's another name.
Hale.
Hale.
Andrew,
Just go by
to
Hale.
Hale. All right.
And he went out to do the hit on Friday, which resulted in the body that ended up in the ER, that caused Joseph to have to operate and end up not pulling his heart out of his chest. It's super exciting because that would definitely have created an inquest.
You thought about it.
Yeah, I don't really want the inquest.
But did you kill him all the way?
Inquests are just lots of paperwork.
Even more than that. I don't want to go before the medical board before the game
Wait.
starts.
Did one of my targets end up in the hospital?
The guy, so in your narrative, the person that you shot,
Uh-huh.
that you thought you had taken down, but you had to get out of there because of the weird shadow,
Uh-huh.
that guy ended up not dying right away.
He should have been.
Like,
It should have been simple.
Because you were
Yeah.
surprised, somehow your
Okay,
almost
gotcha.
always perfect assassinations went wrong, and he didn't die immediately and ended up getting taken to the hospital.
Where
I
his
finished
heart,
the
Wasting
job.
resources.
where his
I
heart
finished the
was
job.
definitely not ripped out.
Totally
Certainly
not.
not.
Definitely not eaten.
No.
Almost certainly.
I'm not gonna play the crazy guy this time around.
Oh, it turns out you were crazy the whole time.
Are you gonna be Norman the normal?
Yeah.
Norman
No,
the normal?
my
I
name
mean,
is normal.
it's really
Novak? Novak the normal?
it's really a 5-person race to see which one of you people are the craziest.
I'd like to see.
And Nick is number 1.
Yeah.
And the league.
I'm gonna get the crazy people walking. Anyway.
Well, it's a different kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this guy is seeing shadows on the internet. You're seeing shadows of this guy seeing shadows on the internet. These two have actually seen real shadows in the actual world.
Did I get any form of the shadow, or was it just like
Oh, by the way, what you saw was exactly what you saw in Iraq.
So you didn't describe
why
it in your
you-
character.
oh,
Do you want to
oh,
describe
Like, you
it now?
looked up and you saw the exact same shadow that you remember seeing in Iraq.
it'll come up.
Yeah.
It'll come up.
Oh my
Okay.
Let's let the exposition come naturally.
Paranormal shadow.
So, Robbie, what do you do in your evenings? Are you just researching people that you can end up taking down, or do you actually go out into the streets and like drive around?
So it depends on who's been who's been let go that day and who is still in.
Okay.
So basically I'll take people and I'll semi-analyze them, and then when they get released, I will either follow them
Okay.
or I will leave them alone because they're fine. But it depends on who. And so I'm either stalking people or at home playing video games.
Okay.
Sounds good.
You're playing
So do you-
CSGO.
Yeah.
Do you
Target
do your own
practice.
Do you play-
research before you pass a name onto Hale, or do you just kind of like share the job with him and like, oh, here's a guy who's like.
I do my own research
You play
because I need to
Splinter
figure out
Cell?
where the guy is. So
Okay.
I already figure out where the person is. I don't just give him a name. I figure out the person and the location, and then I pass that on.
Okay.
Manhunt.
Makes it better.
You guys never go out together, right?
No.
Alright.
I don't
What,
think-
huh?
No.
Yeah.
Does Hale even know who you are, or is it just like an alias type of situation?
No, like I'll go to the prison. I
Okay.
think.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you guys have like an info drop? Like it's like
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, you'll have like
on your way home, you like drop something off somewhere, and then I'll go
Perfect.
find
and
it.
then Nick, you check it
Dead
every
drop.
once in a while if there's something that dead drop. That's what it's called.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Oh, okay.
Is a filet of fish wrapper? It means no case today. Big Mac wrapper? There's a name.
It's the Big Mac.
Mm.
Most of the time, it's gone just because some guy grabbed
That's
it.
a homeless person, right?
It's like food.
Big Mac, big gat.
Oh, you guys should also know Chicago is an extremely old city with lots and lots of like underground tunnels, many of which are abandoned. We have an entire population of Morlocks.
Awesome.
That's what I call them. They're just the homeless
Who live
people who live underground.
Right,
Like
yeah.
like there's a whole mini city of homeless
Chuds.
people in Chicago.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
The cybernetic humanoid underground dwellers.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
What? It's a movie reference.
take their limbs, add them to our own.
Or are we
Yeah.
not allowed to make references?
Feast on
Oh,
their
that's
faces.
fine. So presumably you've gone home for the evening and are enjoying whatever you and your husband do on Friday nights.
Probably, yeah. Very casual at home. I'm probably reading something nice. I'm not thinking about what I'm reading right
A Tale of Two Cities.
Hmm.
now. I don't know.
Maybe some Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, I could be watching Game of Thrones. That'd be nice.
Okay.
yeah.
But it's
You've
Friday
been
night.
binging the whole 5th season.
Oh, I'm only caught up to the 5th season.
Oh, You're only just caught up because of your work, but your husband is at home and watches, so he's like ahead of you by a season.
Oh God, that's the worst.
I thought you were trying to mess with the viewers by like to throw off the timeline. Of
Oh,
when we record
that would be exciting.
Oh,
Wow, I missed my opportunity.
It's like, did you just finish the 3rd season?
I gave it.
When did they record?
I gave a clue earlier, but yeah, we gotta.
We should make a reference to season 7 and like a future episode.
No, we can reference the movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it gonna be a movie?
That might be. I don't know.
Oh my.
No, it would
God.
be our fiction,
No.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
I can't wait for that Arya spin-off series.
I can't believe they recast a person who's not a little person as Tyrion Lannister.
Ah,
Whoa.
that'd be
They
crazy.
cast
They put in
Shia LaBeouf.
gross-
Well, after he died so
Shia
tragically.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, I just can't see Channing Tatum as Tyrion Lannister.
Please no. Please
Wow.
But no,
And he takes off his shirt.
yeah, just very casual.
Cersei.
Cersei,
I have some advice for you. Anyway,
All right. So yeah,
Sure.
so the action right now is at the hospital.
Mhm.
You are there. You are clearly there.
Yep.
Right now, the most interesting thing is in the ER, the nurses and all the people there are freaked out. Like basically, the patient's gone. You
Oh, the prologue thing has just happened.
yes, this is
Okay.
immediately
Okay.
at
We're
this
jumping
moment.
in.
This is
Okay.
all happening right
All
now.
right. So I think I'm just standing there stunned, like with a scalpel in my hands, just like staring.
Because you made your sanity check, you can play it off as he was just gone already anyway, and you just kind of jump back and like just in frustration, and so you can play it off without it looking like something went horribly wrong.
Yeah, I think I'll do it. I think I'll calmly but firmly set the scalpel down and just kind of like grip my fist really tightly and just glare back at the table with the dead patient, and then lower my head and slowly like turn around and walk away, and then yell at somebody like, "Who's the next person according to triage?" You know, all that stuff. Or not
Right.
triage.
So
We're not
you
in that
call
mode.
it time of death.
Yeah,
11:37.
do the doctor stuff.
Yeah.
Clinch my fist and seize it.
All right.
I am the beast that worship. Yeah. Sorry.
So you have a bit of a break because every time you have to scrub out and like reset and
Yeah.
everything like that. So you head off and you do.
Sorry, just real quick. What was wrong with the guy? Like, what happened to him?
He was
shot in the head and the chest.
Okay, but he held on. All right, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
like basically you saw that he was like this was what you were familiar with in terms of professional hits.
Right.
In fact, you've seen more of these than you think are reasonable, and you're pretty sure that there's some factions in the city doing professional hits, and they brought in someone who's better than the usual gangbanger who just like
Okay.
shoots crazily into like a crowd. But you don't really have time to care about stuff like that. You know that there's a lot of criminal elements. Sure, someone hired a high level hitman. Sure, that happens. You know, it could even have been someone in government for all you know. But
So I think when I have a moment alone, like if I'm like scrubbing down or something like that, I'll like grip the side of the sink really tightly and just kind of go. It's just like have a moment to myself to like try to calm down.
this is the first time since Iraq you've seen this image.
Right.
I mean, you've
exactly.
had dreams back in the day, but this is the first time you've actually had a manifestation of this vision again.
I'll immediately pull out. Well, I wouldn't have that now, but I'll make a mental note to write down in my notebook that about this experience.
You lift your head up and look in the mirror, and then the mirror staring back at you. No,
It's a shadow.
that old horror trope.
I'll just like slowly, like kind of absentmindedly be scrubbing my hands off, just like staring into space.
That seems very fair. Little Pharaoh staring back at you. No matter where you move, it's just a little
There's so much room for Cthulhu's.
Pharaoh. Kyle, how are you feeling about being here with your comatose son? Are you going to be...
I started the night here, so I'll finish the night here. I'm not
Okay.
going to go out with my sword, if that's what you're asking.
Yes. Do you bring your sword to the hospital?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Do you bring a bottle of whiskey to the hospital?
Oh,
I have a
do
flask.
you?
Okay.
Now hold on.
They don't let you take in a bottle. I tried.
Is this a legitimate like dueling sword, or do you have like a cane or something?
No, it's a rapier, so it's like it's a real sword.
Oh, this
But
is
it's
the
one of
more
the ones that's
important
sharp
question.
all the way down.
Yeah.
Are you a mask?
Yeah, I wear a mask.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're like the Zorro of the streets now. Like people are like, "Who's this weirdo?" Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
No, I have in
carve a
my
C
drawing
into things?
that like he has like kind of like a not really well thought out costume because he's not a costume designer.
coat.
So it's like an old hat he had in the
Tuxedo
in his.
Spray.
Where's the spray? He has an old hat that was just in the closet. He took like a bandana. He's wearing a pair of goggles over his eyes. And then he has
Your tuxedo mask.
and then he has a black trench coat.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then he has a sword in his
Or
back.
you're like the bomb.
You should also note
Black
that
leather lab.
Yeah.
Couple cans of spray
you
paint
are
every time he kills someone.
always more at risk because Chicago is not an open carry city, and so you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
just walk around with
Oh,
rapier.
oh yeah, no. I
So
know
the-
swords
okay.
are illegal.
All right, so the cops are like, if they
Yeah.
see you, they're gonna like take
That's-
your sword.
That's why it's a trench coat.
Okay.
It can hide the blade.
There's so many puns. Anyway,
I was kind of hoping that he would just like, because he was rich enough, he would just always pay the ticket, and he's got a closet that has like 50 rapiers in it.
I'm not rich. A lot of my income is going towards the hospital bills.
Oh,
It's expensive to have your son in a coma.
Still, a
That is
high-level
true.
researcher at a pharmaceutical company is going to make a decent
It's
salary.
Northwestern
Yeah.
and a nice room.
It is.
Only the best for
Okay.
my son.
That is very, very fair.
son. I failed him.
Praise the sun.
It's time for Catalyst to cause a reaction.
But I'll stay there until I get kicked out.
Yeah, keep your blade.
They will never kick you out.
Oh,
You're
they
the
don't?
father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
there's no
sweet.
kicking family out. You
I think
could, like,
you never
literally-
leave.
You can camp out there for
For, like,
all you want.
30
Then
minutes.
tonight I sleep there and I'll head to work the next morning in my disheveled clothing.
Oh, that's perfect.
Do you also have a low appearance? No, you have a good appearance.
I have
Yeah.
12.
Appearance doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean nothing.
It's like your bad roll
One-
that you just
Yeah, it's
don't.
like personality is what.
One of these days, James is going to say roll appearance.
I mean, if you're trying to
It might
fast
come
talk
up.
somebody,
It would
Yeah,
come up
okay.
more often if you were trying to do something with it. Like,
Yeah.
if you decide to walk into a bar and,
Yeah.
like, seduce someone or
yeah.
try to,
What?
like, get into a club and not be, I'm sorry, sir, we're full.
Wouldn't more
you
be
just
like
let these three go in.
fast
It's like,
talk,
I'm sorry,
though.
you're not beautiful.
good stats.
Oh, it might come up.
You should make a computer science roll because I'm presuming that you are still at the library terminal.
Okay, I make it.
Well, you rolled an 86, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah,
you
you're-
said I could go up to a 99.
That's true. But the
Remember-
difficulty level on this one is a little bit harder.
So the rolling
Yeah, so it's an
format,
86.
the rolling format should be I passed with a yada yada, or
Yeah,
I
yeah.
failed with a yada yada.
Right, because basically...
Also, the viewers can't see my dice.
Right. Yes.
Yes, that's
and,
true.
And do you need to say what you're comparing it to as well? Because that
Yeah.
matters
Yeah,
how much
'cause
you
the chart.
succeed.
Yeah, because basically the way difficulty levels work is like, you might remember last time, crits are like if you roll under 20% of your ability
Yep.
or whatever.
Right.
So basically, your ability dictates also how the difficulty level affects things. So things are usually multipliers of your stats or fractions of your ability. So like if you're like in this case, the usual ability that you would need is 10% of your ability against this machine.
Sweet. Okay. It's BRP. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I got an 86 under 99.
right, so not close. Like basically, if you roll under 10%, you're gonna
Okay.
make progress. Because this is super high level government type of things. You're great, but these people have been working on this for a long time,
Right.
and it's not just written in COBOL.
Well, I mean, it probably is, but
It probably is,
good
but it's like it's good
but,
COBOL or COBOL that no one remembers because it stopped being used like 40 years ago. So, but yeah, you're still at the terminal. You're clicking along. With an 86.
I'm like watching.
That's actually pretty bad.
Yeah, that's actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
There might actually be a chance that someone in there
During the
outside
day,
actually-
I like watch him and I see him doing that. I'm like, wow.
Don't-
did the monster
He's the classic like TV hackers. Like he's playing music. You know, there's-
Hey, who's this freaking kid?
I've got a really
Hacking
expensive
government
pair of
facilities.
yeah, it's like
Downloading the internet.
for some reason there's a scantily clad woman just standing next to him all the time. It's like, what are you doing? I'm hacking. It's like, what's she doing here?
Obviously.
I'm a hacker. All right, let's see if.
Are we doing open rolls this season?
Oh, do you want to?
Oh no, this is just to see if he gets.
Do you want to use?
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh, 35. No, that's not enough.
Okay.
No, that, he's not that bad. Oh, I have a little thing here.
There you go.
Yeah, that's like, oh, you make a cool clinky noise. Whoa.
That is too loud.
Please don't. Please don't. Mike will kill you.
Oh,
don't.
really?
Yeah.
Is the mic that
Yeah.
loud? All right.
Put that in there.
No, that's fine.
Hey Dan.
I like it because it reminds me of the Hong Kong casinos where real gambling takes place.
Yeah.
Knock knock.
Is that?
JavaScript.
Do you need an update?
Go ahead. Go, James. I'm sorry.
Someone's gonna have to explain this on the video when we watch it, because I have no idea what that means. What do you do when a hit goes oddly wrong? You're good enough to know that things went wrong. Like, you had to run because you knew that something was going on. So
I'm gonna go to the hospital.
Okay.
And see if he's there.
Yep. So it doesn't take you much because you know how these things work, and I'm guessing you have the scanners, you have all the reporting that goes on. You immediately know where he's being taken, and you could almost get there even before him because you know what you're doing. You've got your squad car, and do you? What do police people do when they're off duty? I guess you can't take your squad car when you're off duty.
You can't.
Yeah, so you have your own car. But you have your scanner, and you definitely know how to get there. And because this is Chicago, and he's a dying person, even when emergency comes and gets him, you're still going to beat him to it. So you can be there when you see him dying in the ER, and his doctor like rushing out with a horrible look on his face.
That's fine. I mean, I would be there. He just like rushes past, and I'm just like a visitor in the hall.
Is his face the last thing he sees before? Is your face the last thing he sees before he dies?
No,
it's like through the swinging hospital.
I'm not in it to get any kind of like. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to do a job.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you're dressed as a civilian, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The job, the voices in your head telling you to do.
The job that my sense of justice tells me to do.
Justice.
Fuck all the way off.
Yeah. So the ER is pretty busy. There's actually a bunch of people in various states of like, gunshot wound, broken bones. There's some random like people just sitting around waiting. Like, looks like they've been waiting a long time. Like, you have something in your butt. You're not going to see a doctor for like 5 hours because there are people with gunshot wounds here. And so
they're forced to sit.
There's also there's also a bunch of people who are just sick and are just here, and again they're like the dead waiting because nobody cares about them. And it is Northwestern, but they still have an ER, so they still have to take patients, and there are people who live out here who are sketchy. So it smells like a hospital. There's a bunch of random individuals here that look pretty normal usually, but what is your skill for noticing
Spot hidden?
Is there a
Is
spot?
it listen?
Yeah, spot hidden.
There's a listen, there's spot hidden, there's track.
I didn't do anything.
Psychology, maybe, if we're talking about a social
There's
noticing.
sneak. There's
Spot hidden makes more sense for me to have than listen.
Yeah, let's go with spot hidden.
If I'm like
because this is
tailing people.
This is closer
what's your
to
spot hidden?
Yeah, this is kind of a
you just
physical
changed
notice
it
thing.
right now.
So let's go with spot hidden.
Yeah, if that's what gets applied. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 50% because it's in my first iteration.
Actually, make both a spot hidden and a listen.
All right. So listen comes in at 25. Oh, this is of course. So 14 beats 25 for listen.
Ooh.
And then spot hidden will be 50. 12 beats of 50. So I succeed in both.
All right. So two things happen. Just as the doctor rushes past you, and the doors of the ER are kind of like swinging closed and stuff like that, you hear the people in the OR sort of like whispering or basically just talking about the case. And you hear someone says, "It looked like he saw a ghost. I think he killed him." Were the last words you hear.
You said they think the doctor killed him?
The ghost?
That's the impression you get. All you hear is, "It looked like he saw a ghost," and you hear another voice going, "It looked like he killed him."
Okay.
And those are the last sounds you hear before the doors swing shut. So there were two voices from the OR that was coming out.
And then I take satisfaction. I did kill him.
Great. This game's gonna go in a very different direction. It's like
None too bright, are Andrew?
It's like you're gonna have to kill this person.
Wait, is Nick the villain?
No, actually, I'm in 17.
Nick,
That's pretty
Nick,
high.
Okay, yeah.
Almost as high.
Nick is taking
So,
credit
yeah.
for
Maybe he's like the Joker. His int is super high, but his sanity is very low.
Yeah.
So he knows a lot of stuff, but he doesn't care.
You're asking, is Nick the villain? And the answer is
Nick's always the villain.
everyone here is a villain.
We're the good guys.
Yes.
Or the good bad guys.
I don't think I've killed
I'm
anyone.
not a villain, though.
I mean,
Why not?
it's
My
Schrodinger's
character is
death.
literally breaking the law right now.
As for
Yeah,
the
you
spot
can't
hidden,
drink in a hospital.
As for the spot hidden, there's a bag lady here, as there are in pretty much every ER of every hospital in the city.
That's scary.
You've seen so many of these people, you would never pay attention to them. They look the same always. They're just like covered in like 3 layers of clothes. They've got shopping bags filled with crap.
Yeah.
They stink of urine. They've got like scarves, and they've got like these plastic bags that they've like substituted for socks and stuff like that. Everything about her is exactly like what you would think a bag lady should look like, which is the problem, because no one looks like a bag lady this well. Also, no one looks like a bag lady who looks like they're paying attention, because bag ladies are usually
Or, like,
bag
staring
ladies
off into
because they're
space and-
drunk or they're like crazed or something like this. But this bag lady
Check
looks
the
like
teeth.
she is just sitting there, looking around, listening to people, but just waiting. Like, she doesn't look like she's waiting for a doctor when the person comes out and calls names for the next person in. She doesn't even pay attention. She's just sitting there like she's just trying to get out of the code and like be inside. But she seems amazingly alert.
And she's focused on the doctors?
She's focused on the room. Like, she's
Okay.
just looking around and paying attention. Like, based on what little experience you have from military operations, she reminds you more of a spook than a bag lady.
All right. I'm going to take a seat across the waiting room, pick up a paper, and start casually reading it.
Alright.
Or appearing to do so.
All right.
You're gonna read National Geographic.
Just for the pictures.
Oh,
It's like, Women of Africa, a retrospective.
I killed that man.
Yeah, I'm flipping through like criminals and like check, check.
I'm so
Oh, it's the
proud.
National Geographic Warlord issue. It's like the annual Warlord issue.
just somebody picks it up later. It's just a bunch of black circles drawn around their faces.
No.
Yeah, I've got a newspaper and in front of it I have like a death book. And I'm just like writing names.
No, he somehow has a red lipstick.
Right?
There's
Yeah.
a bag lady on the list.
It's like,
Right,
Robbie,
who is
Robbie,
the
I need
bag
to borrow
lady?
your lipstick. It's like, why? It's like, for my notes.
Yeah, so I'm hanging out in the waiting room.
All right.
Because I'm interested. She's piqued my interest.
Well, she should. She's
And
also...
my,
Also,
My
you can
sense of smell.
you definitely notice that if it wasn't for the fact that the ER was so crowded already, there would be a ton of empty seats around her. Like, the people who are closer to her clearly feel like that they don't want to be near her because she smells so bad. And in fact, you can smell her from here.
does that mean I can't find a seat or something?
You probably are able to, mostly because I think you scare someone into giving up their seat. Someone who
right.
looks like they might have something in their butt or some other reason, but they don't look like they're there for any other reason.
Well, they're okay giving up their seat in that,
Yes.
in that case. But like, I wasn't enjoying sitting anyway.
Yes. There's every ER has one butt patient. There's like this surprising.
If you're gonna stick a light bulb up there, it's your fault.
Although I have to say, light bulbs are fragile. Then that takes some skill.
No, that's a real story I read once.
Oh,
online.
yes.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
on Scrubs?
It was
Yeah,
also
it
on
was on
Scrubs.
Scrubs.
Yeah.
It was on Scrubs.
Yeah.
Yesterday, my goddaughter was showing me like weird BuzzFeed videos, and it turns out she's
No.
watching a whole series of them, and one of them was like things you didn't know about the vagina.
Great.
It turns out lots that I didn't know. I'm a professional.
It was educational.
So you you
Number 3 will
clear
surprise
up
you.
and you start to get ready to.
What?
I'm ignoring you. I'm ignoring you. Keep
I'm
talking.
going to separate you two.
Keep,
I'm
keep
sorry.
talking. Keep talking.
We're going to put Peter between the two of you.
The class isn't paying attention.
Jesus Christ.
Sitting in the back.
Quiet coyote.
Guys, come on, it's
Yeah,
spooky.
It's a
So
spooky
you
bag.
come back from composing yourself. Why don't you go ahead and make another sanity check?
Whoa.
Oh, me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were still on the bag lady
do you
track.
want-
Oh no,
Do you
he's
wanna
fine.
use
He's just
I'm
waiting
good.
to see what's up.
You're going to be making sanity checks every 5 minutes.
Oh,
for
I
the
know.
next
49 pass under 56.
For the next
All right,
6 sessions.
so you managed to get a hold of yourself, and you're ready to get back out there
Okay.
for whichever the next case is. Make a spot hidden.
Sweet. Where is that on my sheet? There it is. Shoot. That's a fail with a 95.
All right, so you head back into the OR and get ready to take your next case.
Cool.
And Hale, you notice the doctor coming through again. Looks like he's wrapped up and he's gone back into the OR to work on whoever's next.
Yeah. You see me like
Because
cracking.
does he in fact look like he's seen a ghost?
Cracking my knuckles. with it.
Now he
To me?
doesn't. He looks like he looks a lot better than when you saw him pass before. Like when you saw him come out the first time, you thought, "Oh,
I'm probably pretty
must have
damn
been
pale still.
yeah." Like it looks a little unusual because you've been in the business long enough to know that doctors are really dispassionate people. Like they often have a macabre sense of humor. They see people dying on the table all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not usually that fazed by things. Like they've seen stuff and it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And you rarely see doctors ever look like they're the ones who are shocked. Like if they ever do look that way, it's usually like way after the fact, and certainly not doctors in the ER. Like they've seen motorcycle accidents, people with limbs ripped off, you know, torsos crushed. Then like the thing that would cause a doctor to look shocked in the ER is super unusual. This is the kind of thing where you feel like either this guy must be super new and really bad.
Well, and presumably you know he's not super because like he's the one who operated on your son, right?
Well,
No, this is Hale.
This is
Hale,
Oh, Hale.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Hale is there because he's the one
Not
who
Kyle.
sees him.
Okay.
Yeah,
Andrew.
and so you figure he's either super green or he may be one of those doctors who like has just been in the business for way too long because he doesn't look that young. So you're thinking, well, maybe he's one of those like doctors who takes drugs.
I'm 38. I'm not elderly yet.
I don't know. You've seen some stuff in Iraq that
Yeah,
ages you.
borderline.
That's true.
It's like spending 8 years as president. You're just gray early and like you
Mhm.
wrinkle down.
Stop.
Plus, you know, the once you've been exposed to the dark forces on the other side, you just get older.
Yeah.
Well, it's really
That's
hard
fair.
to keep your youthful adorableness after you've looked in the face of
Oh.
Pastor.
My appearance is 7. It was Haster? I don't want to mess around with Haster.
It's just one of his buddies.
Can it be
He doesn't
Nyarlathotep?
Show up himself.
At least Nyarlathotep has fun with people before he kills them.
Look, Pastor doesn't have time to like come out directly. He's got people.
So my next patient's on the table.
Yes,
Is this guy like
he's a kid. Looks like he got stabbed.
wonderful? Oh, okay. So it's mostly routine. All right.
Yeah, it's mostly routine. Just another teenager with a knife wound. Looks like he's gonna have to be sewn up, but you know it did get the spleen, and so it's got some slightly more complicated things that requires an actual surgeon as opposed to like, oh, we're just gonna sew him up or like
Right.
call his parents and ask if he's on the organ donor list or something like that.
Avoid that internal bleeding and toxicity.